Good evening. I must say that it is my pleasure as the acting academic dean to say that on behalf of the president, the board of trustees, the faculty and staff, and the 128th Corps of Cadets, welcome to the 85th W. Wallace Fry Public Speaking Contest. For a number of years, this contest has always marked the beginning of our graduation exercises, and it is no different this evening as we are fast approaching Saturday and the day in which all of these young men will be heading home for the summer, some as graduates of this institution. Of course, none of this would be possible without the hard work of the cadets through writing the papers, and of course the English department who have critiqued and done preliminary judging, helped them in the pursuit of these essays. And with that in mind, I would like to introduce, before I introduce the English chair, I'd like to introduce tonight's judges. Judging tonight's contest is Mr. Lou Leonati. He is a partner at Leonati and Baker here in town and has judged for us for a number of years. Next is Mr. David Jones, PhD, the Associate Vice President and Associate Dean of Faculty and Professor of Psychology at Westminster College. Mr. Greg Smith, PhD, Associate Professor of English, William Woods University. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the chair of our English department, Mr. Mike Harding.
Good evening. The Wallace Fry Junior Public Speaking Competition is an annual event in which all cadets participate, both in middle school and high school. Students prepare speeches utilizing rhetorical devices that they have been taught by their teachers during the lessons. And the 6 students speaking this evening were selected not only via teacher recommendation, but more importantly by peer assessment as well. And the ideas about public speaking have had a long history. However, really, in a competition, it boils down to one thing, and it is a speaker's intentional use of language and delivery to influence an audience. And I'll say that again so that you're mindful of that when the boys get up and speak. A speaker's intentional use of language and delivery to influence an audience. And although the purpose of the speech may vary to either inform, persuade, or indeed to entertain, even unintentionally sometimes, there are 5 elements, key elements, in the construction and evaluation of a speech. And they are as follows: invention, arrangement, style, memory, and probably for this evening, bringing it all together, is delivery as well. And the boys that you've got before you today have been practicing long and hard, as have many of the others that are sat in the audience today as well. And I just want you to remember and respect the fact that some of them it's the first time in front of a large audience. And to that end, can you keep the noise to a minimum whilst they're doing the speeches, and obviously be respectful when giving your applause as well. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce each of the 6 speakers. I won't be stopping in between once each cadet has spoken. All it will, they'll come up, give their speech, and sit down. Once they've sat down, the next finalist will stand up as well. And so, in order of their appearance tonight, from the middle school, we have Felix Tonella, Yichan Yan, Gabriel Elizondo from the high school, Griffin Gilman from the high school, Francisco Fletes from the high school, and then finally Michael Norton from the high school as well. Can you give them all a huge round of applause? And so, without further ado, may I introduce Felix Tonella, who will be speaking tonight on studying in different countries. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Felix Tonella. I'm from Hermosillo, Sonora. and today I'm going to talk about the difference between studying in your native country and any other country. First, I have a lot of topics that I can talk about, but today I'm going to talk about 5 topics. First, learning a different language. As you know, English is the most important language in the world, so we need to learn it. So in the future, you can get a good work in the United States. For example, at the beginning of the year, I got a Chinese roommate named Sue. We couldn't speak English, so we communicate ourselves with signs. But now that I learned it, I can speak with him. Second, become independent. You know, when your mom used to do your bed and your laundry, but not now that you're in a military academy. So in the future, you can do it by yourself or teach someone else. Third is to meet new friends. This is my favorite topic because you don't do just friends from America. You do friends from the entire world, like Africans, Mongolians, Koreans, Spanish, Chinese, all of them. With the good part being to make new friends. It's hard that you learn that language, usually the bad words first. But now we can talk together and be good friends. Fourth, this is kind of different in the United States because when I was in Mexico, I do something not very important, but when I'm in another country, I see that the small things are very important for me. For example, tacos. When I was in Mexico, I used to eat 2 or 3 tacos per month. Now I want to eat 10 tacos per day. My fifth, it's about the traditional cultures between my country and the United States of America. For example, in my country, the girls and boys learn the dances of our people call it folklorium. To watch kids dancing in the United States looks like they have a spider on their back. Another thing is the music. In Mexico, we have strong Latino songs that tell our story. But here, there are not songs that children learn about the story. Thank you for listening to my speech.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Xiaqin Yang. I'm an 8th grader. Before I started my speech, I want to ask you a question. Oh, excuse me. Someone sent me a message. Okay, let's continue. So, everybody, I believe everybody in here have your cell phones with you. So, do you check your phones every day for more than 10 times? Oh, I see somebody say yes. Because we are in a modern society now. Nowadays, both adults and children, girls and boys get cell phones, and even mobile addiction. The mobile phone is becoming a part of human body. If we go somewhere with our phones, we feel boring, feels like we have nothing to do. We can see that whether on the road, subway, bus, table, party, restaurants, we are not looking at anything except our cell phones. The phenomenon of playing phones is becoming very usual right now, but not many people realize that over-attached to the cell phones is very dangerous. Pay attention to these 2 news. 2 teenagers died from car accidents because of cell phones. It happened last week. Jim Pratt, 18, and his younger brother, 14-year-old Joe, were killed when their car crashed in the school bus. Pratt's car was traveling 60 miles per hour when it hit the school bus. It appears that Pratt was operating his cell phone when it hit the school bus. Just because of a cell phone, it destroyed a whole family. Is a phone worth more than 2 people's lives? Absolutely not. Phones can attract attention from you when you are doing something. For example, a Chinese girl was texting his boyfriend on the sidewalk that is flooded. She felt dumb because she didn't see the telephone pole in front of her. Then the flood washed away in the river near the sidewalk. How bad is this? A small phone can destroy a person's life. Have you ever think about that? British Transport Research Laboratory released a group of statistics. If we look at our cell phones when we are driving, the response time will be 35% lower than normal. Compared to the drinking reaction time is 12% slower. You can see that blind driving is worse than drunk driving. In addition, if we are looking at our phones when we are walking, it led the people to see the probability of danger is about 20% lower, causing a chance of traffic accidents is about 43% increased. So everyone, why not stop looking at your phones every day? If you don't check our phones every day, then this will at least keep you safe or away from some dangerous surroundings around you. And get away from our cell phones, well, can protect our eyes and stop our myopia getting deepened. Thank you for listening to my speech. I hope you enjoy.
When was the last time you were punished? Maybe by a teacher, a traffic officer, or maybe even your employer. And what effect did it have upon you? Did you actually gain any positive experience? Or did you just become overrun by fear? Sadly, we live in a society where we would rather live oppressed and oppress others with fear instead of pushing them with incentives and positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement will actually improve the results of people in jobs, schools, among other places, a lot more than negative punishment will. First of all, it is important to note that positive reinforcement isn't just an idea, it's a fact. According to the European Journal of Neuroscience, a journal that only receives contributions from the most important doctors in all Europe, positive reinforcement and attainment of rewards triggers a set of chemical reactions in the brain that actually releases a dopamine, which is a feel-good hormone which makes humans feel pleasure. And it's actually deemed as addictive, which if you analyze it in perspective, it actually makes humans desire more success and more reward. Moving on, this negative tradition of punishment starts all in the base, the education system. We have all witnessed that one person that has been in the classroom and has been punished or maybe even humiliated in front of a class. And what do we note? We note that this kid will possibly suffer from fear for the rest of his life. We all know that one person that because of his or her experience during school has lived oppressed for the rest of their lives. Dana Garcia, a teacher and a student at the University of Michigan, created an app called Class Dojo, which is an interactive app that allows teachers to record points for students according to their academic and to their behavior, to their progress. This app actually allows students to be more engaged in a classroom that has this sort of positive competition. These points eventually turn into rewards and prizes. So the kids that are at the bottom of the class, always clowning around, now have something to work for. They want to be better than that one kid at the top that has all the prizes. Yes, and moving on, this is also seen in the workplace. We all hear about people complaining about their jobs, about their employer, the fear of losing their job. And all this, we believe that it actually, fear is implemented into our lives. But no, it does not work that way. If we actually motivate people to go out there and try their best, and if they try their best, they will be rewarded. If we implement that mentality, production and the efficiency of production will actually improve. Under what circumstance or under what mindset can somebody believe that any single person would strive better in an environment that would rather punish instead of reward? And moving on, this is a bigger issue, much bigger than schools, much bigger than workplaces, much bigger than homes, much bigger than individuals. This moves on to society. If you think about texting and driving, I'm pretty sure that every single person in this room has seen somebody texting and driving. And yet people still do it. It's fined. You get fined by texting and driving. And yet we do not change. We would rather adapt our lifestyle. We would rather go out there and find a way not to get caught instead of abiding by the rules. If you analyze society and you actually put some thought into it, why don't we reward people who actually abide by the rules? It's mind-boggling. We, as a society, have evolved a lot from where we begun. We've come this far. We deserve a lot better than being punished. We deserve to be motivated. We deserve to be rewarded. Then we still punish instead of reward and motivate. We're still oppressed, not by anybody else, but by ourselves. We deserve better. And yet with all of this information, we would still rather punish instead of reward. Before I leave, I want to thank the English department, which has really, really helped every single one of us in this stage. And their work has really, really been undermined. Please have a great night.
John Locke, famous philosopher, once said, "Being all equal and independent, no one ought to harm another in his life, health, liberty, or possessions." John Locke had it right. America, Russia, Estonia, almost every country guarantees and protects these fundamental rights, with another 30 guaranteed in the United Nations Charter. I regret to say that one country does not. And that place is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or informally known as North Korea. Instead of telling you about all the crimes against humanity that are being consistently committed, but instead close your eyes and take a second to imagine yourself in this girl's shoes. Since her birth, she was told what to wear, what to sing, what to think, and what to say. It was indoctrinated into her that Kim Il-sung and later Kim Jong-il are omnipotent rulers capable of reading her mind. By her 7th birthday, she for the first time witnessed an atrocity. Her best friend was publicly hung. His crime? Watching a Hollywood film. By the time she was 14, she, for the first time, attempts to cross the Yalu River into China. Her father decided to drown himself instead of being deported back when they were intercepted by Chinese border patrol. She had to bury him in the darkness of the night to avoid punishment. In North Korea, there is a saying that women are weak, but mothers are strong. This came true for her when she was only 16. She tries yet again to cross the border into China, and her and her mother were picked up by border patrol. Her mother chose to be raped and then later killed to give her daughter a chance at freedom. Without a family, she found a group of refugees that were going to attempt to cross the Gobi Desert into Mongolia. To get an idea of what they're about to do, the Gobi Desert is the 5th largest desert in the world, encompassing 1,295,000 square kilometers, or roughly 500,000 square miles. Little by little, her group was picked off, either by the heat or they died from thirst. At the end of her journey, when she was about to take her first step into Mongolia, she held a knife against her neck. She was ready to plunge the blade into herself and die, then lose what freedoms she fought hard to get. This was the life of Kim Il-pak. She's lucky as millions more are still trapped in North Korea, unable to escape. Since Kim Jong-un's takeover in 2011, 340 executions have been directly ordered by him. The crimes have varied from disrespect to bad posture, and they have all ended with death. It is impossible to count the number of people who died from the draconian punishments or from mass starvation. In 2016, an estimated 20,000 defectors tried to cross into China. Only 8,000 have been accounted for. It is suspected the rest have been killed or deported. Now, you and I are gifted to be here in a country with more than one channel on the television, access to the free internet, and the right to express his taste in the government without risking execution. It
It is our duty to take the moral path and help those still trapped. I'm not asking for military action to topple the dictatorial regime. That will only kill innocent civilians whose mistake was being born to the wrong parents. There's another way that is a bit easier than one might think. To be able to understand what the people go through on a daily basis, you're going to have to educate yourself. For those who are not actively serving in the United States military, you can book a trip to North Korea. You fly in from China, and when the plane touches down in Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, you feel an infinitesimal amount of the oppression the citizens go through every day. Any electronics you have with GPS capabilities will be immediately confiscated. Your tour guides will dictate what you see, hear, and where you go. You'll never be allowed to leave the city, but you can see the oppression in the corners of the slums and the constant propaganda being shoved in front of you. When you get back home, it is time to start fixing the situation. There are hundreds of humanitarian organizations dedicated to helping North Koreans escape. You can donate money, resources, or best of all, sacrifice a bit of your time and sweat. North Koreans every day are being stripped of their fundamental rights and are dying without knowing what freedom is. It has fallen on to us to save them. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Growing up, kids are scared of many things. Things like the boogeyman, the dark, or the monsters in their closets. As they grow up, though, their fears change and develop. They no longer fear those monsters that they saw in movies or those that they heard about in stories. No. They now fear something much scarier, more devastating, something real. They fear people who sit behind screens. They fear people they know. They fear their friends. And they fear their family. Why? Because in this new era of technology, all it takes to ruin someone's reputation is one text, one email, one screenshot, one picture. A few emails get leaked, and you might not get elected president. Leak a few pictures, and you might go to jail. Make a few jokes, play a little prank, and you might ruin someone's life. Once it's out on the internet, we can never have it back, right? That's what parents and teachers alike try to drill into our minds since the moment we first discovered the internet. Yet some people just don't understand how dangerous the internet is. So let me tell you a story about a little girl who lived not very far from here, in O'Fallon, Missouri. Her name was Megan. And Megan was a 13 going on 14-year-old girl who was as sweet as they came. But she had always battled with ADHD, weight problems, and depression. She had troubles with her self-confidence, but she was strong and she was mature. Which is why her mom let her create a MySpace account so that she can socialize a little more, because she had just had a fight with her best friend and neighbor. So what happened next? She meets a boy who's amazing and who really likes her, and finally makes her feel confident because she also lost some weight. But isn't this what we've always advised against? Talking to online strangers? Even if this seemed beneficial, you can't afford to trust someone you've never even physically met. But this is something even her overprotected mother approved. This was at the very least a positive influence in her life. So much for a fairy tale, though. Suddenly, the boy she was falling so hard for tells her she never wants to talk to her and that she's a horrible person. And what follows is something that is so common nowadays that it's sad. All of the things that she told them get leaked. Suddenly, everyone in school is shaming her, calling her names, and sending her into social oblivion. What's worse is how common this is nowadays. The Megan Minor Foundation reveals that 70% of students admit to have been cyberbullied at least once or twice during the school year. Every little speck of self-esteem she had managed to build up since she met this boy online disappeared immediately. And this is what people don't get, that a seemingly insignificant joke can be devastating to someone else. We detach ourselves so much from human contact by communicating only through our cell phones that in the process, we even lose some of our humanity. This is something we have all done, including myself. We hide behind the security of our screens. We say all of the things in social media that we would never have the guts to say in real life, face to face. We think that just because they're reading characters and not listening to our words, that doesn't mean they're not as much, if not much more devastating. And you know what the saddest part about this is? That's a joke you'd expect from a teenager. Someone who does not know the weight or the consequences that come from hurting someone like that. That was not the case here, though. The account was made by your neighbor and her mom. Yes, her mom. With the intended purpose of raising Megan's self-esteem, as well as finding out what she said about her daughter to other people. The saddest part is that that's not even the worst part of the story. But this shows you just how much society has changed from technology, to the extent that a grown woman, fully capable of understanding the consequences that come from hurting a little girl like that, will still go ahead and do it. But you probably want to know the worst part about this story, right? What could be worse than a mother lying to a little girl? Well, let me tell you. I'd love to say that this mom was at least someone regretful of what she did, but she was not. She claimed that she did not hurt Megan any more than she already was, mentioning that she had been battling depression before. And she had the safety of deleting the account for evidence. And this is just one of the thousands of cases that happens every year in the United States. But you're probably wondering, what happened to Megan, right? Well, the day that Megan received all those hurtful messages, she was scheduled to get her braces taken off, a day she had looked forward to for months now. It was 3 weeks till her birthday. She was supposed to wear this amazing, beautiful dress that she had just bought. On that day that Megan received all those hurtful messages, she hung herself in her room. Her mom never got to see her run around in that beautiful dress, but instead she wore it for a funeral. In police reports, her neighbor and her mother did not give any other comments and did not present any other evidence. The mother felt absolutely no guilt and was never legally pursued. This is what technology does to many people. We detach ourselves from human contact and we lose our humanity. This is what cyberbullying does to kids. We forget that our words will hurt people no matter where or how we say them. So please, I beg you, don't let there be another Megan. Take action and don't be a bystander. Remember that something as little as jokingly fat shaming somebody can be devastating to them internally. Be conscious of what you say and what you do. You don't know the effect that it will have on the other person. Oh, and the saddest part about this story, Megan died without ever knowing that the boy she loved was not real. Thank you.
Good evening. Ever since the dawn of the human race, man has craved power. Power has come in many forms throughout the ages, be it military might, knowledge, religion, and other such forms. However, during the industrial age, a new way to gain power was born. He who could control energy through electricity could now control the world. All sorts of new inventions were being made up, all dependent on electricity. However, to gain this new power, we have bled our planet of her resources. The use of fossil fuels, such as coal and oil, have led to the destruction of our natural world. We now need to find a new way to generate electricity or face the punishment of Mother Nature. Due to the increasing demands of energy in the world and the rise of global warming and pollution, we need to figure out how we are going to solve the problems of today. Global warming is one of many obstacles our generation is going to have to face. Many countries already pledged different efforts in clean energy. However, many countries are still further increasing their dependency upon fossil fuels. However, there are numerous alternatives to fossil fuels, such as hydroelectric, solar, wind. And with all these alternatives as options, one might think, why are we still using fossil fuels? Well, the answer to that is pretty simple. Fossil fuels are extremely cheap when compared to other fuel sources, and fossil fuel power plants have already been developed and tested and have proven to work. The already massive and growing demand for power leads to a rush to fulfill that demand. Wealthy countries will do what they can to produce mass and clean energy, and developing countries will do what they can to fulfill that need. Now, I do propose a solution to this problem: nuclear power. Now, I know you may be thinking, nuclear power, isn't that dangerous? However, I'd like for you to hear me out on this topic. Nuclear power has had a colorful past. Disasters such as Fukushima, Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island have brought on a negative reputation for nuclear power plants. Nuclear power is, however, on record safer than other sources such as coal and oil, and even hydroelectric in terms of deaths due to accidents. Nuclear power plants do produce radioactive waste, but the amount they produce is minuscule when you compare how much fuel was used and the energy you receive from it when compared to another energy source such as coal, where the yield of pollution is extremely high relative to amount used and energy output. Nuclear power's waste products don't contribute to global warming, and if stored properly, contribute very little to pollution. Nuclear power also poses unfathomable potential. New advances in fission and the discovery of fusion not only solve most of the problems of the past, they also paint a bright new future of tomorrow. For instance, less nuclear waste that doesn't last as long and isn't as radioactive. Cheaper, more efficient fuels that can't be turned into weapons. And the discovery of fusion, the same type of nuclear reaction that powers our sun, our solar system's biggest and best energy provider, uses. All these new and even future advancements make the negatives very minuscule and almost non-existent, while the benefits only grow exponentially. So knowing this, you might find yourself thinking, this sounds too good to be true. However, due to public distrust and lack of funding, these new technologies are having difficulty taking off. You can, however, help humanity reach this new potential by writing to your congressman or woman and asking them for funds to be diverted from less needed programs into this new potential masterpiece. You can also personally invest capital into these businesses to aid in research and development, and if it succeeds, you get money. In all, it is you, the people, that will decide the course of this planet, whether you like it or not. And when you do, please consider nuclear energy. Thank you.
If we could give all of these young men another round of applause for their hard work. A note of thanks to our MMA jazz band under the direction of Mr. Rob McGrath for their playing this evening. They are also set to entertain us while our judges deliberate. So as our judges deliberate, the MMA Jazz Band. Before we move on to our presentation of awards, the English department would like to recognize and award each of these young men a token for being a finalist. So if Mr. Mike Harding will join me to present the awards. First from the middle school, Mr. Felix Tonella. Also from the middle school, Jai Chan Yan. Representing the upper school, Gabriel Elizondo. Griffin Gilman. Francisco Fletes. And Michael Naughton. And now for the presentation of awards, it is my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Lou Leonati.
The first award that we're going to present is for the middle school speakers, the Joy McGeorge Middle School Oratory Award. So we would ask Ms. McGeorge to come up. Speaking on the topic, modern people are addicted to technology. The winner is Yangchen Yang. Then presenting, or the winner of the Winston Churchill Memorial Award, speaking on the topic, the plight of North Korea, is Griffin Gilman. Then the Wallace Fry Jr. Cup for Excellence in Speaking. Mr. Fry is a graduate of Missouri Military Academy, and he was a member of our law firm. And it is my great pleasure to present the award named after him on the topic of sticks and stones to Mr. Francisco Fletes.
I would once again like to thank our judges this evening, Mr. Lou Leonati, Dr. David Jones, and Dr. Greg Smith. Thank you all.